Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our expert talk here on Formnext in 2021. In our today's episode, we will be talking about AM success factor for tomorrow's industry and how small and medium-sized companies should prepare already today. And my guests here on stage are true experts that I will introduce to you right in the beginning. First, to start with, welcome Bas de Jong, CCO of company Free Your Mind, headquartered in Berlin. Also welcome Dr. Karsten Heuser, Vice President AM at Siemens. And last but not least, also welcome here on stage Dr. Damien Buchbinder, Head of Product Management Additive Manufacturing at Trumpf. As you can see, true expert, and we will be talking about the change in the industry, which we can definitely see here at Formnext this year. The companies are not single fighters anymore. They're not individuals. That's my impression. But there are team players. That's at least my impression. Karsten, do you see it likewise?
Yeah, I can fully agree. And team players means it's like in a soccer game. You need to have your role. And this is the nice stuff about the communities like we have here at Formnext with, I think, 608 exhibitors. They have the roles in material, in machine, in design, in software, and all the different roles play together. And the same as a second community, which is the VDMA, Additive Manufacturing Working Group. There we have 175 companies as well, from all the different ends, material, service provider, machines. And if they all play together like a good soccer team, I think then we can achieve a lot as a community, yes.
And I think that's at least my impression, that there is no other way to become successful with additive manufacturing technologies, because I remember in the very beginnings at the first Formnext some years ago, there were a lot of startups, smaller companies fighting for themselves to be accepted in the market. But now people are trying to build up networks to find partners who can add on to their technologies. I think that is the right way, isn't it, Bas?
Yeah, I think it's the only way also. So we see now we are in a market development stage as an industry. So we need to find the right partners to grow and also to cross that chasm. It's a very early stage industry now, and you need these partners to grow. So we see great opportunities also in our space now to work with material companies, with hardware manufacturers, with service bureaus, for us as a software company also, to build this ecosystem together. And then where it's all about is to help the customer solve their biggest problems and realize the potential. And you need each other for that.
And there are still problems, we have to admit, because this is a fresh technology which has not the tradition that other manufacturing technologies have. There's still, it feels like startup, even though we are talking to real established and traditional companies like Trumpf, for example. But how do you bring those two worlds together? Tradition on the one side and start-uppy feeling on the other side.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated. It's a real challenge. It's a mind change process. For me, in the past it was very technology driven. We have to bring the technology more productive, part quality, reproducibility, process chain. But this is not anymore the most important topic for growing this market and the potential. For us and Trumpf, we did it. It was really a challenge. It's finding the right AM part. How should I decide? Should I print it or not? And how can I decide? And this is still, for me, the biggest task and challenge. The education training of the designer, because the designer is the one choosing, let's do it in AM, and there, so we have really a game changer potential in training education of people. For example, at Trumpf, in the last 6-7 years when we re-enter AM, we made an internal project to define and identify potential parts. And now we have 6 serial parts AM, which are printed in our in other machines, not in AM machines, but only 6. So 1 part per year. I don't know if this is a success. I want to be faster in this. And this, I think, is our common goal together, to find the right application and to help people to decide which part, yes or no. That's complicated. It's a challenge still.
Looking at this year's exhibitors here at Formnext, one could clearly see that AM has grown up, right? It's not a child thing, it's an adult thing, because we are talking more about serial production. We are talking about substituting traditional manufacturing processes by means of AM. Have we arrived already in the serious and tough world of industrialization, or are we still in between, Bas?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think we are in puberty now. You say it's the path towards growing up. And it's also a fun age to be in, if you all remember still, I do. And it's also challenging to look for the growth opportunities together. So I see we are in puberty, and now it is about finding the right partners to really help these customers to grow and reach their full potential. And I realize what you're saying also, I recognize it a lot. It's about finding these new applications, because the more applications you find, the more interesting it is also to start with 3D printing.
Karsten?
Guido, if I may make a comparison. I've been at EMO, and EMO was in Milan in September. And at EMO you had 700 exhibitors. So I directly looked up at Formnext and just mentioned it's 600. So this is on eye level. In years before, there was this EMO, and then there was a small group of these fancy additive family doing a fair. So this is, I think, a really facts showing you that additive is really increasing even in this kind of time. And then, just to tell you, I've had a visitor today at my booth, and he mentioned what is the difference between EMO and Formnext. At EMO, people try to incrementally improve the process by X%. And here we try to disrupt and explore total different ways of applications and try to do it totally different, I think, from the machine side or even from the platform side and stuff. And this is a different approach the community is doing here in the additive space.
Get you, yeah. And I think there is still some difference between the traditional technologies and AM. If you only look at our clothes today, right? We are in suit and tie. No, not tie, but suit at least. Some years ago, Formnext was a T-shirt thing. Yeah. Because all those startups were wearing flip-flops and short trousers and T-shirts and stuff, and we have grown up a little bit and we look like that. But how about the work, your daily work in your companies? Because Siemens, come on, it's a traditional company. Trumpf, it's a traditional company. So how do you convince your colleagues that this mindset is a complete mindset, not only on the technology, but also in people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is tough, it's hard, it's difficult. I already touched it a little bit. It's not saying, let's think in AM, do it please. No, you have to take time to introduce to the whole technology. And when they made first time the success and the impression, what is really feasible, then they will continue. It's a snowball effect. But you have to invest for this first moment for every designer or everyone who is one of the deciders or working with the operation. And by the way, T-shirts 10 years ago, for Trumpf it was the other way around.
Really?
This time at Formnext, we are the first time we are allowed to wear white sneakers and no ties.
No tie.
So it was the other way. So the traditional conservative gets more dynamic and young.
So it's only for today's talk show that
No. Yeah, no, I don't have white sneakers. At least I have my two kids are always dirt on the shoes, so no white sneakers for my...
But how about your colleagues in your company? Is this some kind of let's say, action group that is working on the AM thing and all the others around are staring at you like some kind of alien, or is it incorporated already in your organization?
It's always a question how you organize it in a big corporate company. And we decided in Siemens that we do a modern network-based structure. So on the one hand side, we have a top-down commitment up to our CEO, Roland Busch, as well Peter Körde, that additive will transform us as Siemens as well and our customers. And then you need to form groups working in a network structure from all the different entities. So we in Siemens, we call it company core technology field. We have more than 230 industrial machines in more than 50 locations. So we combined and get all these network together in a kind of internal community that people willingness to adapt to this design, learning how to use additive, make useful parts, they are working closely together. We even have a platform installed internal how we can share printer capabilities. So I have printer in Erlangen. If colleagues in Chemnitz need a part, they just transfer it about an order demand platform. So we use our own tools and we work with our factories to continuously transform ourselves. And yes, it's good to have the classical machine tool, the classical production in the same departments, because we can learn a lot from them. Because at the end, I wish if we, with additive, if we are a traditional industry, we have done it. Then mission is accomplished. We want to be a very normal traditional industry in 10 years. Everybody is just using like a milling or like any kind of other technology.
But please don't, because that becomes boring then. So I think this AM world is some kind of fancy, it's some kind of stylish. I have the impression that people are really enjoying that, or Bas. I think it would be a good idea to keep some of that explosive style that the industry had for such a long time.
Yeah, I recognize a lot what you're saying, and I used to work for Ultimaker for 6 years, so there it was really startup. Now at 3Mind is more scale up, and still it is so cool to see how many cultures it also attracts. So our company in Berlin has more than 10 different cultures working together. People are really moving to work in 3D printing, and the reason is because it is sexy and it is cool. So we should definitely keep that vibe going. And build this market together. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also possible because you see it also in the universities now. The students are using 3D printing. And what I've heard from the contract manufacturers, a big problem is to find people in the conventional technology to do the work. But in 3D printing, on the other hand, every student knows how to handle a 3D printer. So I think with the next generation, there will be a lot of resources also available to grow even more.
Mm-hmm. Well, when talking about the people in that industry, I think it's a good idea to have a look at what the skills should be, because I think you said before it depends on the designer, on his decision-taking process, whether he goes into a traditional manufacturing technology or if he goes into the direction of AM. I think it's a hen and egg problem, right? Where do we start with the designers or with the manufacturers?
I would say directly now with the designers, because I mean we talk since 20 years about AM, and it's becoming more and more mature, and it is industrialized for some applications, at least in metal and plastic and so on. So for me now it's really, we have to decide yes or no AM, and it's not done in the operation and manufacturing, it's the designer, because the main benefit of this fantastic technology is coming in the design, even combining conventional and additive. So it's not left or right, it's really, you have to have an open mind about what could be possible, and then to think about, and then to get tools to decide. And that's not easy. So for me, it's upfront when we are digital, the design, together in interdisciplinary teams perhaps, because one head, it's complicated. If you would get me now in a task, should I do it or not? It will be complicated for me to answer it directly. It is not easy. That's my stand.
I would agree that there's no either or in terms of, we call it ecosystem projects, where at the end you need to have a compelling application bringing value. And then having a cross-business, cross-function, cross-country, whatever team you need together with factory managers, with designers, with all the different ingredients. And this is something you need both from both worlds, because if you have a cool design, but it will be far too expensive to produce, it doesn't help for the application. If you have a wrong design with not good features, and then you can produce it. So either or probably does not work. Just to give you one short example, because I like it and people understand with this printed eyewear, which is from a cool startup company, Umavo, here based in Germany. And this is so easy to understand because individualized eyewear frames, yeah, you go to the optician, you get your personalized frame, but what happens then is extremely complex. How to manage a production where you have a lot size, one production, and how to fill up the machines, how to do exactly the right color, the right quality, how do you manage that in 2 weeks it's back at the optician. So there needs to be a big team behind backing this up for production with the right machines, right technology, right software. And this is what we call ecosystem projects, like, for example, with this eyewear frame project as just one example.
And what you are mentioning is some kind of individualization of products, which is a major trend, a worldwide trend, and I think we will see much more of this even in the future. Yeah. But I think it would be too short and unfair to limit the additive manufacturing technologies to the individualized small lots. I think there is capability and potential for even bigger lots. Give me some examples on what can AM do in substitution of other manufacturing technologies close to big serious production.
Yeah. So I recognize what you're saying about the individualized. It's a trend. What we also see as a trend is the supply chains that are disrupted, which is even more so because of COVID. And what is a really interesting use case, if you have spare parts that are out of stock for long life cycle products. Some products are in the market for 10 years, 20 years, sometimes even 50 years. And these are really interesting parts to 3D print. Also parts that, for example, in hard to reach areas, in certain countries in Africa, where it is very hard to get the part, then it also makes a lot of sense to 3D print. So I think the first focus should be on these markets, because it all starts with the value. And I think if you start with the value and you make that known, then the operations will follow after that. The designer will come, the operators will come, the technology will come. So start with that. And what we see now at customers that start with these high-end use cases that generate a lot of value, they have the technology in-house, and then they can adopt more and more of other use cases, maybe higher series, also parts that are not that critical to save on warehousing cost. So we need to help these customers also with the adoption grade. Yeah.
And especially because it fits so nicely to the concept is here sustainability. Yeah. And additive manufacturing is sustainable and helping us to improve the sustainability, especially like this warehouse digital spare parts concept. And this is especially one of our 4 theses in the position paper we just released from the VDMA working group additive manufacturing. And this is how to use and leverage additive to help to reduce CO2 reduction.
Give me some examples for that.
Just one example, it's repairing instead of producing new. We have here something on stage as a project that we repair gears. And we can save 60 to 80% energy by repairing instead of doing it new. Oh. So this is just on the spare part business. As well on the eyewear frame, there just was a study coming out, I think it was 50 to 60% reduction on CO2 footprint, because you can produce locally, you have not milling, you have less waste, you don't need to send over the eye frame from China to Germany, you produce here. So a lot of aspects, just 2 aspects on really cool CO2 reduction and sustainability. And I think this will give a further push of the additive industry to really use this power. And you can go electronics, batteries, hydrogen. Additive is somehow underlying as a horizontal technology with a lot of ability to improve and leverage these kind of mega concepts in the world.
But I'm asking myself, how could you upscale that? How could you bring this technology more into play? Because as we heard, it always depends on the first person who does the decision on which technology he relies or she relies. How can we inform people more about the capabilities of AM in order to get higher numbers, to get more volume, and by means of that get an economy of scale? Because that is what extremely is needed to bring down the cost of AM technology. What is your proposition?
Talking, communication,
like we do today?
Success stories, and beginning in the kindergarten, that they think in 3D, that they build things in 3D, then in schools, universities, and so on, training, Industrie- und Handelskammer, we are talking about a small and medium-sized enterprise. We need the mind change, and the mind change is easier if people are growing with this technology, like they know that there are milling things, like foundries, they know it. They just have to know that AM is there, nothing special, but a big hype because it's so fantastic. But at the end, they should think, it's just a fabrication method, but I can do things what I cannot do with others. And if they had this experience somewhere in the kindergarten, in the school, they will have it in their mind that there is one opportunity. This would be my key.
Mm-hmm. Another idea?
Yeah, I think it's a $12 trillion market of manufacturing. It's huge, and that is also the reason why it's very conventional. It's been there for decades, and there's been some research that says 8% of the parts can be 3D printed, so it's a very big market. So why doesn't it take off now? I think a lot has been discussed already, and what we can do is also, of course it starts with education. I think also showing the real value to the customer with the first couple of use cases, also collaborate with a platform internal in your organization to show everyone what this one champion that has a 3D printer and knows what to do has achieved, and inspire the others in the organization to also start 3D printing. If you see, like for example, we did a lot of jigs and fixtures, tools and machine parts, and I've seen at several departments, if you show it to them, then they think, is that possible? I didn't know. Oh, can you print something in carbon fiber instead of machining it in metal? I didn't know it was possible. So by showing these examples, which they actually don't believe at first sight, I didn't know we could do this, then we can cross the chasm also and take the bigger group with us to really transform this manufacturing.
But we should not forget to show even the things which not worked.
Ah.
That's important.
You have to explain that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because we like to show what works, but before this, 10 times it doesn't work, and perhaps to show and to share this knowledge could be an accelerator as well. Don't do this mistake once again because we learned this. Or even someone else is coming, if you screw on this screw, it should have worked. So this could be something as well. So bad cases on the table, not only good ones, could be an accelerator. At Trumpf we have this innovation job floor where some additive machines are sitting, and all the development teams can come to them and use this technology. This is our way to push this technology inside. Mm-hmm. There is really a dedicated team innovation workshop where you can place parts for AM. Yeah.
An event like Formnext is perfect for those experts in the market, for people who want to move something, for people who want to participate in this network of additive manufacturing specialists. But it is still a specialist meeting, so it's not for the public. How can we bring this topic into public so that we do not have to force people to accept additive manufacturing, but to ask for additive manufactured products? Do you have a clue?
You're fully right. Just to give you one example, I think Siemens has about 250,000 customers outside. I think a very, very few parties already looking on additive. Therefore, we need to join forces. Yeah. And this is coming to your first question in this talk today. And we need to look coming away from the technology. Yeah, for example, our ministry was funding technology projects. Probably we need to reconsider that we need to fund and work on application-driven projects, which is probably bringing us more value as a country instead of inventing technology after technology. Yeah. So it's joining forces, it's getting people together, companies together in open ecosystems, and therefore I think these platforms are so important that we speak with one voice. And this is, I mentioned this position paper, and I can just invite everybody to download it on the Additive Association from the VDMA. Bring our ideas together. Speak one language. Make it easy for politicians, for government, for all the people to understand where are the limitations, what are the challenges, and what is our proposal to these decision makers, how to change it. And then I think we can really change the world, and we need to make it visible. We need to speak to all the different levels.
We have almost come to the end of our today's talk, but I would like to take the opportunity of having three experts here on stage to answer the question, what could, that is the headline of today's talk, what could small and medium-sized enterprises do to take advantage of additive manufacturing technology, to take advantage, to make use of that in the future even more? Bas, what is your recommendation?
Yeah, so for my recommendation, it all starts with the application, because that shows the value. So I would recommend them to organize themselves, the SMEs, in the working groups, maybe per industry, and then scan their databases to find the parts that you can't 3D print, then show the business case. And then with this business case, there's enough value to convince the management to start with 3D printing. And once they have that, then there's money, there's time that they can invest, and you will start with the first cases and move on to the next. What we've seen is that once you have the first couple of cases done, it's a snowball effect. So people will find more, they get excited about it, they fire each other up, and then it will grow. But it starts, again, with finding the application. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Okay. Karsten, your recommendation?
I would say be courageous to find these applications. I fully agree. But then don't think that you should or need to solve every problem you alone. Search partners. Yeah. Look who can help you. Whom can help you? Is it more the financial stuff that you need somebody who helps you on the financial? Yes, you have venture and whatever capital, but as well looking really whom in the industry from our ecosystem can help you that you be more successful in a shorter time. So search for partners and do not try to reinvent the wheel for everything by yourself. Search for partners would be my advice.
Damien, your recommendation?
Yeah, I think there are different strategies. You could train your design department in thinking AM by partners, but there are a lot of offers on the market. You could do partnerships with universities, applied science. They have projects to begin to enter in this topic. Or you could even hire an expert who could introduce everything in your company. So I think there are different ways, but you have to have an optimistic view on it and endurance. And don't trust everyone, because you will fail touching AM at the beginning. So be fair to this technology. There are disadvantages. And be endurant, and then you will find your application. I think there are different strategies, but don't do it alone.
Great, so thank you very much, gentlemen, for your recommendation. And I think it's always a good idea to jump into the topic, to come to Formnext or to join the community at least, because there are lots of offerings in different groups. It's big fun to talk to you as experts. Looking forward to see you soon again. And thank you for watching, and see you next time here at another episode of Expert Talk. Bye-bye.